Hi, hello, vanakkam and welcome back to yet another episode on Little's Law YouTube channel. So today in this video we are going to see how to use a JavaScript file for Base64 encoding. And recently I've got a question from one of our subscribers. So let me go to the question here. So they have asked a question that they need help on encoding a value in request URL using JS, which is JavaScript in Neoload, and it's a Base64 encoding. So then I have went through and found out that first I will try to explain you what is a Base64 encoding, and then I will take you through an example of how to successfully encode or decode the Base64 and use it or to pass that in the URL. So first, let me tell you what is a Base64. So a Base64 encoding is a binary to text encoding scheme that represents the binary data. So we all know what is a binary data, which is zeros and ones in a ASCII string format by converting it into a set of characters from a predefined set. So they have a predefined set. So they used to convert it into a set of characters from the predefined, which is already defined set. So this encoding, which is this Base64 encoding, is commonly used for encoding binary data. For example, we might have images, the audio files, and any other binary formats into a format that can be safely transmitted over text-based protocols like email or HTTP, which is in the applications. So in Base64 encoding scheme, each 3 bytes of binary data are represented as 4 ASCII characters. So the ASCII characters used in Base64 encoding includes uppercase and lowercase letters, which is uppercase A to Z to lowercase a to Z, and digits comprised of 0 to 9, and 2 additional characters, usually plus and /. So additionally, the equal to symbol character is often used for padding at the end of the encoded data. So this is a short idea on what is Base64 and what is Base64 encoding, and a small idea on what is ASCII and then the binary. So here in the screen you can see we have the original binary data, and this binary data is encoded into this particular Base64 string. So in fact this Base64 encoding is reversible, meaning that if we have this text and if you want to convert it into a binary data, then we get this characters or this numbers after we decode. So we can decode the Base64 string back into the original binary data. So the reverse process involves grouping the characters into sets of 4, converting them back to their 6-bit values, and then converting those values into the original bytes of data. So Base64 is widely used in various applications. For example, it can be used in email attachments. We can use them to embed images in HTML, and we can for handling the binary data in web applications. And it's a simple and efficient way to represent binary data as a text. So that's the reason we can see it's used all over the HTML, like the web applications and wherever we find them. So now let's go back to Neoload, and before that, this is me, your Shanmugam. I welcome you all to Little's Law YouTube channel. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you have not subscribed yet, and like the video if you really like it, and share the video with your friends. So now let me add a user path. So I'm adding a user path, and I will name it as 2, and I have a separate user path which is the 2, and inside the actions we all know we will have to add the request. So in this case I will directly add a JavaScript because I do not want to complicate it, I do not want to make it too big. So I'll just make it very simple so that you can understand it easily, and then you can implement it in your project. I will add a JavaScript here. So this is a basic JavaScript, and in fact we have discussed this in one of our previous videos on Neoload. So let me remove this, and I have already created a code for this. So let me just paste it here one by one so that I can explain you them. So firstly, I have returned a function which is base function for base64 encoding, and I will explain it to you. So here the function base64 encode str, and as I've already told you, this base64 comprises of the uppercase A to Z, lowercase a to Z, and numbers 0 to 9, and then the plus symbol, forward slash, and equal to. So I have added all of these, I have defined them, and then I have defined another variable which is result is equal to with a double quotes, and I have written a for loop, you can see, which starts where I equal to 0 and str.length, which is a string.length, and then I'm, as you know, as I already told you, we are going to convert it. I mean, like this, when we do a base encoding and decoding, they normally convert it into 3 characters. So I have returned this code here. So now I have returned this function, and the next part is I'm going to get the original category ID value. So this is a very simple example here. So the code goes like this. I'm getting the original value. So I'm defining a value here, which is the category ID. So in your case, you will have to correlate the value, and you have to bring the value in here and assign it to the value, whatever values you want to encode. And then I'm going to encode the category value, the category ID value. So I'm going to encode this value in base64. So now we have got encoded category ID is equal to base64 encode of category ID. So I'm encoding now into this value here, and then I'm going to set the result to a Neoload variable. So now here you can see I'm setting the result to a Neoload variable using this particular function, which is context.variable manager.set value. Will set whatever value which I have taken, I mean which have come as the result of the base64 encode. So this value will be saved here, or it will be set in this particular encode category ID. And now I have the code, so I'm going to pass this value, the encoded category, into the URL. So here you can see I'm constructing the new URL with the encoded category ID. So here is the URL, and at the end I'm adding the encoded URI component. So this should be very important, because this is the function that calls the encoded category ID without any mistake, and I'm adding it with a plus symbol. So now it's ready. Let me apply, and let's go to the validate check user path. Let's do a start check. Let's see how does it works. So hope you understand. This is how the base64 encoding works. We'll have to encode. So first thing is, like in your case, if it comes from a previous response, then you'll have to correlate, as I already told you, you'll have to correlate the value and then pass it as a variable, and after that you can encode the value and send it as a variable. Okay, so this happens, let me close it and let's run it again. So this encoding is a very simple thing, so if you try a few times you'll automatically crack it. So here you can see the response code is JSOK, which means the script has completed successfully, but I will have to demonstrate whether that is completely working fine. And for that, let me add a HTTP request. So let me go here and let me create a request, HTTP request. And at this, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add this script here. So for example, like, let me just get that value. So now I'll get this URL, and we will create the get request. Let me go back to the actions here, insert child request, get HTTP request, and then this is a get request. So when I click create, we get the request here, and one thing which we are missing is the encoded category ID, which I will pass it now. So let me pause on the encode category ID, which is the base64 encoded value, and let's save it and go to the validate checking, and then let's start checking and let's see how does it work. And here you can see the script has passed, and then again the value has also worked fine. So as you can see here, the value fish is encoded to a base64 encoding value. So same way, when you have a value that has to be or that needs to be encoded, you can use this code here. So I'm just showing it again in the screen, and you can use this code to do an encode. In case if you have any errors or if you face any issues in fixing it, please do comment in the comment section. We can catch up and fix the issue. So until I meet you in another interesting video, it's bye bye from Asan Shanmugam and Little's Law.